Welcome to the Global from Asia podcast, where the daunting process of running an international business from Hong Kong is broken down into straight-up, actionable advice. And now, your host, Michael Michelini.
Thank you, listeners, for tuning in to another episode of Global from Asia. It's getting pretty cold here in the south of China. It's middle of December, and usually the south doesn't get too cold, but it's been pretty bitter cold and rainy. On top of that, I can't even leave if I wanted. As I mentioned in earlier episodes, I am currently reapplying for my work permit, so I have my passport up until the 27th of December with the government, so I won't be able to get that back until then. So it's a strange feeling to not be able to leave a country, especially one that's not your own, but I think it's just maybe normal for us global entrepreneurs. So today's episode, we're at episode 12, and this is the third part of a three-part series of the StartMeUp HK Venture Forum by Invest HK. And this is the keynote speaker, Tim Draper. He is an international venture capitalist, and he's made a lot of amazing investments in some really global businesses. We catch him right after he spoke at the Venture Forum, and he shares some insights about disruption of industries, entrepreneurs, what steps they should take, and how to get started. So I hope you guys enjoy. Okay, thank you, listeners, for tuning in to another episode of Global from Asia. And as part of the Start Me Up HK series, we have a special guest with us here today, Tim Draper, very famous venture capitalist and investor visiting Hong Kong and just finished speaking at the Venture Forum. So thank you for coming to share with us, Tim.
Terrific. Great to be here.
Okay, maybe we start off just introduction. Introduce yourself.
Okay, yeah, I'm Tim Draper. I'm in the venture capital business. I started a new university called Draper University of Heroes, and always focused throughout my life on spreading entrepreneurship and venture capital around the world.
Yeah, I just listened to your speech earlier today, and we were talking about disrupting monopolies, and we went, maybe for the listeners that weren't here today, we could talk about those different industries on a high level, maybe also around Asia too, that you think are applicable in the Asian market.
Sure. I like competition. Competition is good. It gives us lower prices and better service, and everybody works very hard to make sure that we customers are well served. But monopolies are not. They give us bad service and higher prices. And so I've always felt that it's been exciting to back entrepreneurs because they disrupt big monopolies. And we've had the experience in many cases where Hotmail disrupted the post office, and Skype disrupted the voice communications business, and Tesla disrupted the car companies, and Solar City disrupted the electricity industry. So I am always looking to go after industries that need disrupt. So I think what monopolies are out there where you're getting bad service and paying high prices, well, I think you're still seeing it in the electricity industry. I think that we're not getting our money's worth in electricity. I think we have the same situation in medicine. Whenever you see big anything, you know that it's a monopoly. So big pharma, big data, whenever they say the big three accounting firms, you know there's a monopoly that needs to be broken. And good entrepreneurs look at those monopolies and they say, I can do a better job than they do. So I actually feel like medicine needs to be reinvented, and a lot of good entrepreneurs are doing good things there. I think finance, my own industry, needs to be reinvented. It's the investment banking world and the venture capital world really are run by oligopolies, and they need to be shaken up. And then I also think education needs to be really shaken up because it's done the same way it was been done for years, and it's run by monopoly, and we need more competition in education. I think there are great opportunities there. And then one of the most important things that happens in our lives is government, and I don't understand why those are all monopolies. We customers are getting the short end of that stick, and I think with as it gets easier and easier to go from one country to another or to communicate with each other across borders, governments are going to have to compete for us. So I think that's exciting, and every government I've known, every government leader I've known, except maybe in the U.S., is really fighting to get better service and get more entrepreneurs and more venture capitalists, more businesses to their country or to their city. And that turns out to be really great for society. And I think we as citizens should look at governments as things we should comparatively shop.
This is really interesting. I like the government. That's something I also would like to disrupt. I'm an American, and I've been in Asia for almost 6 years now, and I think a lot of my other overseas entrepreneurs in Asia are also kind of a little bit disappointed at what we see in the news about some things in the government. I've heard about, making islands offshore in America for entrepreneurs and the elite, so that would be some pretty interesting stuff.
Well, it is true. Both governments have to compete with each other, and some clever entrepreneurs are changing the way we operate and find different uses for different parts of government. For instance, Bitcoin is a new currency that is really competing with bad currencies out there and is going to be a very strong competitor. I also think Sealand was set up purely to be a free trade zone outside of Great Britain. And then there's something called Blue Seed, which is a concept that these guys had to bring a cruise ship 10 miles, 11 miles outside of the coast of the Silicon Valley, and so that people could come and stay and live on the cruise ship, but then take a tourist visa and come work for companies like Cisco or Facebook or whatever in the Silicon Valley, and then they just go back. They just take a one-day visa, go work, and then they go back to their place on the boat. All these things are just trying to get around bad governance, where governments have failed us, and we need to get them to change, and some ways to get them to change are to compete with them.
I agree. So a lot of our listeners are global business entrepreneurs, they're micro global businesses, and I think we would love to hear your thought as an investor about these kind of like virtual multinationals and how you as maybe an investor treats them or considers them with they're working in Mexico and America and Europe and Asia. How do you foresee them?
So I assume a lot of you are entrepreneurs out there who have businesses that have global impact and potentially global impact. So you're going to be affecting people in all different kinds of countries. In that case, I think it's really exciting that if you have a really interesting idea, it's easy now for really good ideas to spread around the world. If your business hasn't spread around the world, just keep improving it, because all businesses need to constantly improve. And if you keep improving, you keep coming up with a slightly better experience for your user, at some point they're going to say, wow, this is really great, and I'm going to tell all my friends about it, and it will spread very quickly around the world. It's interesting that distribution has become a commodity. If I want to get a video, I can get it off of Netflix or Hulu or Apple, iTunes, or I can get it off of any of these things, and they get me the same service. So that is commoditizing, and the prices of those kinds of things are going to go down. But for you, if you're a creative entrepreneur with a new app or a new website or a new way of looking at something, the word will spread very quickly, and it doesn't matter where you are in the world or where your business is in the world. The whole world can see it. I guess there are some language barriers that do keep certain markets from getting certain products, but I think all of that is going to go by the wayside over time, and a good idea is just going to spread.
Okay, great. I think you're really a good person to pick the right people. We know some of your previous investments, and maybe you can speak about how you choose your investments or your people that you invest in.
Well, I invest in people who are very enthusiastic about what they do. So enthusiastic that they really are going to do it no matter what, whether they get the money or not, whether something breaks for them or not, they're just going to continue doing it. So if you're that kind of entrepreneur, I'm interested in talking to you. I've always believed that it's the optimists that get everything done. Pessimists all seem very smart, but they never get anything done. I mean, you might see an optimist who failed but at least he tried. Pessimist doesn't. So that's where I feel enthusiasm really carries the day for entrepreneurship. Before I meet with people, though, I have to be convinced of their business, and that means that the market's got to be good, the technology has to be unique, team has to make sense. There are a lot of things that have to sort of look like they're coming together before I'd really want to sit down and meet with somebody. But when I meet with them, enthusiasm is what really carries the day.
Okay, great. I'm curious to hear more about Draper University, your project, and I think it's also related to your disruption of education. Maybe you can introduce to the listeners about.
Sure. I always wanted to start a school, and this has been a great opportunity for me. Draper University of Heroes is a new kind of school. I had amazing education. I went to Andover and Stanford and Harvard Business School, and I still feel like something was missing. And I think it's the experimental part, try and try again kind of attitude, where I could make mistakes and still succeed. The A in school really means that you didn't make any mistakes. So I think the idea of getting a different kind of school where you're encouraged to make mistakes turns out to be pretty interesting, and turns out that the schools become incredibly successful. So anyway, all of you out there, if you're 18 to 28 years old, apply to Draper University of Heroes. We'd love to have you. It's a very different kind of school. It's all team-based. We teach future instead of history. We have a lot of different speakers. We give you survival training. And if you can't afford to do that, we'd love to have you do the online school, which parallels our offline school, and it's been a great experience for those students. So we're trying new things, and every quarter at Draper University is different from the one before. One quarter you might learn a lot about Bitcoin, and another quarter you might learn about crowdfunding, another quarter you might learn a lot about 3D printing, but you will generally get a very broad education in business, and you'll have a lot of fun. We'll get you to do some things that you'd never imagined you'd do, and you'll build a group of friends that will be very tight with you probably for the rest of your life.
That definitely sounds interesting. So that's draperuniversity.com.
Yeah, draperuniversity.com, and then for the online school, you can there's a pull-down menu, and you can find that. So it's $9,500 US for 6 to 8 weeks, and it's for the online school, it's $850. After the school, you have an opportunity to pitch your business to a panel of venture capitalists, and a large percentage, maybe a quarter of our students, go off and do their business and get some funding. And a few of them get quite a bit of funding.
Great. That's definitely exciting news for listeners. So my last question for today is for the listener that is, usually these are listeners that are in Asia or want to come to Asia, but I'd like to say one tip or one thing that they can walk away after listening today, that maybe to get their business started or to jumpstart their business.
Well, to get your business started is just take one step at a time. Just take the first step. Once you've taken the first step, then something will happen, and then you'll look at the chessboard and you'll say, okay, what's my next step? And then you take another step, and then something else will happen. Be bold. Go try and take those steps, because if you take enough steps, you keep improving the product and the service, and eventually you have a real business. It comes when you least expect it. All of a sudden, after 5 or 10 years, something happens and you look back and you say, oh my gosh, I actually did create an extraordinary business. And it really just took, for those entrepreneurs who did it, they just made one step at a time, and they moved right through the program. So I would say that would be a good way to get started. Now, entrepreneurship is not for everyone, and Draper University of Heroes is not for everyone. It is hard. It is a challenge. It is something that you have to live and breathe and know that this is all you want to do with yourself for a long period of time, because it will take longer than you think. And so really make sure that this is the right thing for you before you go off and start a business. But if you just cannot stop yourself from doing it, then you have to. And I wouldn't be giving you won't take any of my advice anyway. You'll just go and do it. So have fun with it. That would be my other advice, is make sure it's fun and you're in it for the long haul. So don't try to do it all in one day. It's a long-term business. It's more than a marathon. It's an ongoing obstacle course that never ends.
Yeah, it's definitely a challenge, and you shouldn't do it for the money, especially. I think that's also a lot of people say. So thank you so much for your time, Tim, and we'll get some good feedback. And then any other ways that they can reach out to you, or I know there's a university.
Yeah. Well, you can reach me through mail at dfj.com for venture investment. But if you want to apply to Draper University, it's www.draperuniversity.com. And if you want to do the online school, I think it's www.draperuniversity.com/online.
Great. Thank you. That's a wrap. I hope you guys enjoyed that interview with Tim. That was really an amazing one for me especially. So, he's talking a lot about education, and I think some know I do a lot of different training and seminars. I'll be going to the U.S. right after the new year. On January 18th, I'll be in San Francisco on a Saturday afternoon. One of my advisors is letting me use his conference room in San Francisco for a China business workshop. My wife, Wendy, and I will be doing a 3-hour seminar to help people get their mobile app in China. She's actually an expert in mobile apps, and we will be sharing the strategies of getting listed in Chinese app stores and getting your app known in the Chinese market. So I hope that's interesting to you guys. You can find it in the show notes of globalfromasia.com/episode 12. The cost is going to be $99 a person. We'll have an Eventbrite link. So I hope you guys feel that's fair. It's only 10 people I can fit in the conference room, so it'll be very, close and comfortable, so you guys will get the most value, I believe, out of it. Okay, and now we're going to go into some of the show notes. And now we're going to go into some words from our readers. This is actually my favorite part of the whole episode. So I got a LinkedIn message. Tom Guzman, he added me on Facebook and LinkedIn just a couple of days ago, and he wrote me a really amazing letter here. So he says, Mike, thanks for adding me to your professional network. I'm in the process of researching protocols for doing business globally and came across your podcast, Global from Asia. They've been very helpful and informative. Please don't stop. If there's anything I can do to provide support, please let me know. Not only will it help me in my research, but I wouldn't mind sharing whatever I find to support Global from Asia. Best regards, Tom. So thanks for that, Tom. I really appreciate that letter. I'm glad you're enjoying this. That's my biggest, really makes me feel amazed that getting to help people, meet new people all around the world. So I'll keep these going. Don't worry. We got about 4 or 5 different interviews I've been doing already that I got queued up. And any other requests you guys have for topic or speakers or interviewers, let me know. That's a wrap.
To get more info about running an international business via Hong Kong, please visit our website at www.globalfromasia.com. That's www.globalfromasia.com. Also, be sure to subscribe to our iTunes feed. Thanks for tuning in.